Hello class. In this video, we're going to continue on with our decimals using base 10 blocks, but today we're going to do subtraction. It's partially similar to the one that we did with addition for the first half, but then the second half it changes a little bit. So before we go actually into it, I want you to pause this video and I want you to write down your heading, your full name, first and last, the date, mathematics, and your period number. And of course, this lesson's title, Decimal Subtraction Using Base 10 Blocks. So pause this video now and put this in your notebooks. So again, as a reminder, we have our base 10 blocks that we do use. We use the flat to represent 100 pieces or 100 pennies in a sense, which is our whole. Then we also use the longs to represent our tenths, right? And then we represent the singles, which represents our hundredths, right? So we do have this, and we all know that, we don't sit there and we don't draw every single little piece out. So remember, another way that we do draw the flats is just by putting it as a square or something similar to looking like a square, because we all know that Miss Pascarella cannot draw. We also just use a straight line to represent our long, that represents the 1/10. And then we just have the dot that represents the 1. All right, so that's just, let us keep that in mind. So we're going to continue on with the subtraction part of the base 10 blocks. We will start to move to like the standard algorithm in the next video, but right now we're just working with the base 10 blocks. So here we have our first problem. We have 93 hundredths minus 65 hundredths. So remember in the beginning, before you wrote down the heading, I said it's pretty similar in the beginning to what we're adding, but then it changes a little bit. So the part that it's similar is the first number, right? The number that we're going to take away from, in this case, the 93 hundredths, that's what we're going to draw out. Since I have 0 holes here for the 93 hundredths, I don't have to put any flats. I have 9 tenths. So that means I need to have 9 longs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now I'm just going to recount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which represents my 9 tenths. And I want you to notice here, I didn't squeeze in my longs, okay? Because with subtraction, I might actually need room, okay, to work around for the second part that's a little different. So I want to spread them out a bit and give myself room, right? Then I have to draw here the ones, so the hundredths, right? So I have 3 hundredths. So that means I need 3 singles. 1, 2, 3. That part is similar as when we're adding with decimals using base 10 numbers. This is the part that comes differently. When I am subtracting, I'm not redrawing the second number. I'm actually going to cross that number off here. But I have to be very, very careful and do it from right to left. Remember, we subtract from right to left. All right? So I want to make sure that I have enough pieces and that I don't need to borrow over. So here I need to subtract 65 hundredths. And because I'm going from right to left, I'm going to start off with the 5. I need to take away 5 singles. So when I come over here, I notice I only have 3 singles. I can't take 5 from 3. I only have 3. So what I actually have to do is then look to the left and take one of these longs, right? I need to cross this long out. I circle it and cross it out to show, hey, I'm not subtracting this number. What I am doing, and what this arrow is going to show, is I'm taking that long and I'm breaking it up into 10 pieces. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm going to just recount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because remember, there are 10 singles in one long. So if I circle it and I cross it off, when I'm checking my work, I know, hey, I didn't take that apart because I was subtracting it. I took that away because I broke it up into a different denominator, some other form. In this case, I went from the longs to the singles. So now I look at this and I go, I can, in fact, now take away 5, right? So let's X 5 of them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since I didn't circle these when I'm reviewing my number, I know I subtracted them. Okay, I didn't break them apart anywhere. I subtracted them. So I finished the 5. Now I need to move on to the 6. And this is longs because the 6 is in the 10th space. So I need to then X out 6. I like to keep my X's kind of close together. You could choose however you want to do that though. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So when I have this, I now can then total this. That what I'm left with is I have 2 longs, right? 1, 2. And then I count how many singles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 singles, right? So I can now write this in my number. So I know that 93 hundredths minus 65 hundredths is going to give me this solution here. So since I have no flats, I know my whole number is 0. I have 2 longs, and remember the longs represent tenths. So I have 2 of them, so I need to put a 2 in the 10th spot. The singles represent hundredths, and I have 8 of them, so I need to write 8 in the 100th spot. So I know that my solution is 28 hundredths. Later in a couple of videos, we will start with multiplication of decimals. At that point, you'll be able to even confirm for yourself with different kinds of calculations, which will show a couple of different methods to associate that within as well. But you could also do a check by adding 28 hundredths to 65 hundredths. You could also take 93 hundredths and minus 28 hundredths, and you'll get 65 hundredths if you wanted to do that as a check. So I want you to take a moment now, pause this video, and write all the question as well as all of the work in your notebooks. Now that we have that in our notebooks, let's try another example. The process is the same. So I have now 72 hundredths minus 28 hundredths. I know that was our solution here. Just happens to become coincidence, nothing planned. So I take the first number that I'm going to take, that I'm subtracting from, and I'm going to build that in base 10 blocks. So I have a 0 in the ones place, so that means I have no flats. I have a 7 in the 10th spot, so that means I have 7 longs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 longs. And I can recount 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 longs, which is 7 tenths. Now the next number is a 2 in the 100th spot. Remember, the 100 spots get the singles, so I need 2 singles because there's a number 2 in the 100th spot. Note, I didn't squish any of my work at all. I did not squish it. I left room. Okay? So now I got to look at the number that I am subtracting, which is this number right here, the 28 hundredths. And remember, we subtract from right to left. So I first have to start with the 8. The 8 is in the hundredths. That means I have to take away 8 singles. But I notice right here, I only have 2 singles. So I can't take 8 away from 2. If I only have 2, I don't have 8 to take away. So then I need to turn around and look at the next one to see what I need to borrow. So I'm actually going to circle it and X it out so that when I review my work, I know, hey, I didn't subtract that. I borrowed it. I broke it apart. I went from tenths to singles. And there are 10 singles in one long, right? So I'm going to draw out 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now that I have this, now I can subtract that 8. So let's X out 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Then I move on to the 2. I have to take away 2 tenths. And remember, tenths are the longs. So I need to take away 2 longs. 1, 2. And now my subtraction is done, and I just got to regroup. So I look here, I have 0 of the flats. Then I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 longs. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 singles, right? So since I have it that way, I can look, well, the flats, those are my whole numbers. I have 0 of them, so I know my whole number is 0. Okay. Actually, I'm going to take that away just for 1 second, only because I want to keep the same format as last time. And the last time I rewrote the problem. So I have here 72 hundredths minus 28 hundredths is going to give me the solution. So we have 0 flats, so I have 0 ones. I add my decimal. I have 4 longs, so that means I have 4 tenths, so a 4 goes in the 10th spot. Then I have 4 singles, which means I have 4 hundredths. So a 4 is going to go into the hundredths spot. And then I'm going to circle it because that is my final answer. So I know 72 hundredths minus 28 hundredths is 44 hundredths. I want you to pause this video now and write this whole screen in your notebooks, including our diagram and our final answers. Now that I have that in, I want you to try 2 on your own. So in your notebook, I want you using base 10 blocks, just like I used here and here, okay, for both of these problems. You have 83 hundredths minus 47 hundredths. Again, here you'll have the 8 longs, the 3 singles. You're going to have to borrow, and then you will take away 7 ones, singles, and 4 longs. And what you have left over is your answer. In question 2, please note, you're going to have to borrow twice. You have 1 flat, you have 1 long, you have 1 single. You're going to have to break the long up into 10 singles. You're going to then have to break the flat up into 10 longs to be able to take away 3 singles and 5 longs. Your remainder is your answers. If you need to look back at the video at any of the other problems, you may do so as many times as you need to, okay? And make sure that you write down any questions that you may have on this so that we can go over it in class. All right, I want to see the base 10 blocks and the work of the base 10 blocks. Otherwise, your homework will be incomplete. All right, thank you. And just don't forget, use the videos, rewind the video if you definitely need to for this.